Hi there. In this video, I want to talk to you about the top 10 tips for getting grant funding. What are they? And I'm going to explain each one, show you the importance, and hopefully you'll be able to apply it to your own grant funding efforts and get results. So let's get started. The number one tip for getting the funding that you want is having that belief that every project can be funded. That's the way you got to start from. If you're thinking that, oh, my project would never get funding, oh, because it's a little bit obscure, then you've just sabotaged your efforts right there. You got to believe that your project can be funded. And all it takes is finding the right type of funder. Yes, sometimes you might be one of those organizations that has a plethora of projects you can deliver, and then when you see a grant funding, you simply go on the shelf, pick one of your projects and be able to deliver it. Yeah, you could be that way, but sometimes you may not. You may be an organization that only has one passion that they want to deliver. I want you to know that you can still find funding sources for what you require to deliver. Okay, so you got to start with that belief. Even if you're one of those people that has a variety of projects you can deliver, you still need to believe that there is funding available for you. All right, that's the first thing. The second very important part of this is being specific. Be specific about the group you want to serve. Sometimes we have this opinion that if I'm broad, if I try and get everybody in, if I say, for example, I want to serve every young person, then I will get funded. It doesn't work that way. In fact, if you look at some funding criteria, they would tell you that what age group are you serving? Are you serving the 13 to 21 or over 25 or over 40s or over 50s? Why are they asking that? Because they're trying to narrow you down. They're trying to get you to be more specific, because they know, funders know, that the more specific you are, the more you are aware of the challenges and the solutions that that group of people have, but you cannot solve everybody's problems. The world is too messy for you to be able to solve every adult's problem or every woman's problem, because women, adults, men, young people have a variety of issues. They're in different age groups. They live in different locations. They're faced with different environmental issues, different social issues that needs to be resolved, and you need to pick yours. In other words, pick your battle, more or less. Do not try to to solve problems for every group of people that you know. All right, that's the second tip. Be specific. Number 3, ensure you this is very important. Ensure you interview at least 5 to 10 people from the group you want to serve. Why is that? Because then you can learn about them. You can learn about their problems. You can learn about the solutions that they want. You can learn about the options that have been made available to them. You can learn from this group of people other maybe organizations delivering similar projects to what you want to do. Then you will be able to incorporate their ideas to create your project. If you do that, funders love that. It's what they call user-led or people in the lead. So if you interview this group of people who you think might want to come to your project and they're giving you all the ideas, then you take those ideas, you incorporate it into creating your project. Then you get 1 or 2 of them to also deliver part of the project. Either they're going to be involved in things like social media, or they're actually physically going to stand. If it's a workshop, for example, that you want to deliver, they're actually physically going to stand and speak to the people when you start the workshop. Yeah, that's what it means by putting people in the lead. If you include this, just this tip I'm giving you here, number 3, if you include this in your application, you are going to be way ahead of so many other people that will not do what I've just said. Now, number 4, first places. The first type of organization you should look at is what I call low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruits are funders that are big and have money. Low-hanging fruits are funders that are located in your own community that want to fund projects within that community. Low-hanging fruit funders are people who specifically want to fund the types of projects that you are working on. And if you're in the UK, one of them is the Lottery Fund. Lottery Fund has huge amounts of money and they fund a variety of projects, and the application process is not particularly tedious. So you want to start there. In fact, you also want to look at your community funds. If you go to your local council, in the UK that is, you will find some community funds. I think this is very similar to most countries, to most Western countries as well. So even if you are not from a Western country, find low-hanging fruit funders in your own country and start there. All right. Number 5, use online sources. Sometimes you can just something simple as doing a Google search. Like you might say, okay, if you want to work with the youth, for example, you might say funding for youth ages 15 to 25 in the UK. Grant funding for domestic violence. Grant funding for the elderly in the UK. Whatever it is. Insert that. Insert the broad term into the Google search. When you say grant funding, then insert the broad term. Grant funding for domestic violence victims. Grant funding for gun crime victims. Grant funding for pregnant women. Whatever it is, insert that and see what comes out. Because many times Google does do a good search to find other sources of funding. Well, one other place you could check out is www.grantsonline.org.uk. All right. That's number 5. Number 6, be structured. What I've got here is that you will need to be either a community interest company, a limited by guarantee company, a charity, before you can get funding beyond the 5,000 mark. So if you're going for funding lower than 5,000, well, you might get away with not being officially registered as an organization. So you're just constituted yourself as more or less an individual. And yeah, sometimes you could get funding of £1,000 or £1,500, but in my experience, once you start going beyond the 5,000 mark, no. In fact, maybe a little bit lower than that even, they're going to require you to be a registered organization with either the Charity Commission or the Companies House. If you are not, you're going to struggle raising funding over £5,000 for sure. Number 7, and once you've registered your organization, the next thing you need to do in number 7, the tip here is make sure you have 2 unrelated signatories on your bank account. A lot of people miss out on, okay, let me say it. The last thing you want is for you to be awarded a fund and then fall down because your bank account is not rightly set up. A rightly set up bank account is a bank account that has, obviously, the name of the organization that you've registered with. I've got to say that because sometimes people, for some reason, go set up a different name bank account. I don't understand why they do that, but people do it. So once you've registered your company or your charity, then you take those documents to your bank or email it to them, depending on whether you open an online bank or, by the way, there are some funders who don't like online banks. So if you can use a high street bank first, if you can get away with it, it's probably better. So things are changing. Maybe they're moved now, but things are changing. So you want to set up a bank account in the name of that organization, and you want to have 2 unrelated signatories, i.e. Not same surname and not the same address. Because funders want you to have that type of profile on your account so that it doesn't look as though it's a family business, because they don't want it to be so. They want it to be a social organization for the community. So you do set up your bank account with someone who is not related to you, which means that person needs to appear in the company documents. The people signing the signatories of the bank account needs to also be the registered individuals as either trustees or directors, depending on whether you start a charity or limited by guarantee company. Charities, trustees; limited by guarantee company, CIC, is directors. So they need to be included in those legal documents and also to be signatories on your account. So let me just say this. If you have 3 people who you are thinking of having on your documents, please make sure that all 3 have different surnames, different addresses. If you're going to have 4 people, then maybe one of them could be a husband and wife, for example, and then the 2 other people are unrelated. All right? So that gives you a proper proportional balance there. Because if you have husband and wife and a friend, some funders don't like it. They want you to be a disproportionate in terms of relationships. Okay. Number 8 is a big secret. Number 8 is this is where the rubber meets the road, really. This is why people pay consultants like ours to write their applications for them, because sometimes you might have to. I remember one application we wrote. We had to read about 35 pages of guidelines. That's a lot. That's a huge amount of documentation to go through before you write applications. And if you're doing that all day and you're still running your project, then it might be difficult for you to do that. But here's the big secret. Make sure you read all guidelines before you write the application. Because if you don't, it's unlikely that your applications will be successful. So read as much as you can of all the guidelines. Number 9, be prepared to submit 4 to 10 applications each year. If you really want to ramp up your grant funding game, then be prepared to submit quite a few targeted. I'm not talking about just getting the list of funders and just writing to whoever, not reading the guidelines, not knowing whether it's a proper fit, and you're just sending out applications. No. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is that you write targeted applications to funders, and then be prepared to write at least 3 or 4 or 5, maybe, as you would like. Number 10. This is important when it comes to rejection. I think at some point, if you write applications, you may be rejected. You may have a letter that says, no, we're not going to give you funding this time. Or there's so many reasons why applications fail. So many reasons. One of them could be the funder has no money. But they're not going to tell you, oh, we've run out of money. Well, some do. Some will tell you they've actually run out of money for this season and they'll be back when they have more money. But some people will just tell you, no, we're not giving you the money. Sometimes your application falls down on some technical reason. It could be we've had applications rejected because the funders went to check in the objectives of the organization and discovered that they didn't write any kind of social mission into their objectives on charity commission. So therefore, they are not going to get funded. So that's technicality. Sometimes it could be they called. This is important. It could be sometimes they called your references, because some applications require you to have references. They call your references and the reference person didn't pick up the call. Or they called your reference person and the person said, what? Who? Sorry, I don't remember. I don't know. And they just dropped the phone. And the funder says, that just sounds suspicious. We're not giving you the money. There's so many reasons. So you got to take on board their suggestions and you've got to try again. Just got to keep trying. And then finally, I'm going to give you this bonus tip. Call the funders first. Introduce yourself. If you can get hold of their number, have a chat. Tell them what you want to do. Let them give you some advice, because you just never know. That phone call might give you more insight than the average person. So let me recap on the tips that I'm giving you today to get your grant funding. That's what it's about. Top 10 tips for getting grant funding from me, Boomy Tokan. Believe, be specific, ensure you interview 5 to 10 people. First places to go are the low-hanging fruit. Use Google. Be structured if you want to raise over £5,000. Set up a bank account with 2 unrelated signatories. The big secret is you got to read all the guidelines. Be prepared to submit a few applications before you, a few targeted applications before you get the kind of funding that you require. And also be aware that when you're rejected, it's not the end of the world. It just means you need to go back to them. And the final bonus point I gave you was to call the funders before you actually submit your application. Okay, if you need more help, actually first, do put it in the description box, no matter where you're watching this from, probably on a platform somewhere where you can write comments. So let me know the points out of the 10 points, which ones really stuck or shouted out at you, and which ones do you need to actually be engaged with. And if you have any questions, also put in the comment box and I'll personally read it and get back to you. If you have any questions, do that. Okay, if you want to have a chat with us, well, we are consultants and we want to help you raise your funding. So access this introductory offer as it stands at the time of recording this, and do also subscribe to our newsletter so they can get videos and all other information as we release them. Thank you so much for watching this today and have a great day. God bless.